Hey everyone, Nicole Reimer here with the Power Hub, and you are watching At the Hub. I'm really excited because I say this a lot, but I have a friend here today, and we're actually going to talk politics. We're going to talk some current events and issues going on today. So without further ado, Alex Heathcock, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, we've been talking about this for a while.
Yes.
So I finally got you here. We met about, last summer, I think.
It would have been like 8 or 9 months, almost a year, because it was January or February when the program started.
So Alex and I met, we entered a program from the Women's Foundation called Women on the Run. Mm-hmm. Very apropos, right? And Women on the Run was a program for women who really want to get into politics, may want to run someday, and want to learn more about it. And why did you particularly join that program?
Well, I've always been passionate about women's issues and women's rights, and I've been looking at ways to get involved with the Women's Foundation of Florida, and I saw that they had this entire training program just built for women to run for office that was nonpartisan, just basically laying out the facts for women. Right. This is what it takes to run for office, this is what you need, and you know what, here, if we can provide some resources for you along the way, let's definitely do so. And I definitely, down the line in my career, want to encourage more women to run for office. So to me, it just seemed like a natural fit.
Right. And I think the great thing about that program, and I know you'll agree, is we made some amazing friendships. We became friends. we have a large network of women who kind of were out for the same reason to join that program. And some may never run, some may feel that their behind the scenes role is what they're meant for. But I thought it was an amazing program, especially with everything kind of going on in the world today. So you were the staff assistant to the state director for a longtime senator here in Florida, Bill Nelson, but no longer, unfortunately. So I love your story, and that's the whole point of the Hub, because everybody has a story, right? Mm-hmm. And you definitely did not start out in politics. That wasn't anything that you were even thinking of, right? So when you went to college, you studied PR and kind of marketing and stuff like that, right? And so that is it's not too far-fetched, but it is far-fetched from going from PR to working for a senator, a long-standing senator here in Florida. So talk about that transition. How did that come about? And how long were you there?
So I've always been involved in the political realm just by student government in high school.
Oh, cool.
So every single year of high school, I was involved in SGA in some way or form. But regardless of that, though, I still was one of those people that was very apolitical. And I never thought about ever getting into politics.
Really?
Yeah, because I was just always very middle of the road, like, oh, I don't want to talk about politics. Like, that's a controversial subject.
Yeah.
And then I went to college. I was actually on a journalism public relations track, and I wanted to break into the fashion industry eventually. And I started, doing my classwork and doing some internship hours, and I just kind of felt I wasn't getting fulfillment from the work I was doing. So I talked to a bunch of my friends and family members, and they had suggested, oh, hey, you guys, you're great with kids. Why don't you study psychology and work with kids as like a school counselor?
Oh, wow.
And so I switched my major to that, and again, was not happy with the work I was doing. And basically 3 things happened. I just was not taking care of myself as well. I was not adjusting to college life as well as I thought I was going to. And on top of that, I was unhappy with where I thought I was going in my life. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And just a bunch of external factors had gone on that, I kind of sunk into a little bit of a depression my second year of school. And my friend and my mentor to meme at the time noticed. And she called me up one day and she goes, hey, I'm a field organizer for Obama for America. This was back in 2012. Do you want to come help out on the campaign? And I go, sure, yeah. And I kind of put her off for a month or so. one day when I finally felt ready to get out of bed and be a normal human, I went to the campaign office in Pittsburgh and got a canvassing packet and started knocking on doors, and that was that.
And had you ever done anything like that before?
No, and I'm pretty introverted too, so it was very out of my comfort zone to go just up to a stranger's door and knock on it and be like, hi.
And talk about politics. That's another thing. Talk about stuff that like nobody wants to talk about, that it's religion and politics you're not supposed to talk about. And here you go, and you said, you know what, I'm going to jump out of my comfort zone. And look where it led you.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? If you had not done that, where, you don't know, if you didn't take that leap, that jump, where would you be?
Yeah.
And I'm so happy, and I want to thank you for sharing that. I think depression's a serious issue in the world that we don't talk about. Like, 20-year-olds are not allowed to be depressed. Like, that's just BS, right? I mean, you have, and I think that it makes so much sense because so much pressure is put on you to figure out the rest of your life, right?
Yeah, and the thing is too is that I think I just wasn't at a point in my life, I wasn't mature enough to be able to move away so far away from home and handle living on my own. And I think that that's something that kind of needs to get brought into the conversation more when people are thinking about going to college.
Right.
Maybe people are not always ready to go to college at 18 or 19 years old. And really, it's hard to figure out what you want to do for the rest of your life at 18.
50-year-olds don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
What they want to do. So how do you expect a 20-year-old to figure that out and then balance, you're right, moving away from home for the first time, and a full class load and making bigger decisions. So I mean, it can be overwhelming and then leading to depression. So I want to thank you for sharing that, because a lot of people won't share that, and then that's why things don't get talked about, and then you're ashamed and all of that. So get back to you were canvassing.
Yes.
So is that when you kind of got the bug?
I did. Yeah. I just remember watching the debates, going to I was basically at the Obama headquarter office in Pittsburgh quite a bit after that point, and was really just volunteering on the campaign. And I definitely got the bug then, but after the election cycle, I just still went back to my classes in psychology and doing internship hours for developmental psych, and again, still wasn't enjoying it. And then but I had been talking to my friends, and I go, I know you guys suggested I do this one career path, but I'm not passionate about it. I think I want to go study political science and international relations. And actually, a couple of my friends were like, no, you don't have the personality cut out for politics.
Wow.
Yeah. And
wow, my friend saying that.
Yeah.
Wow, that's tough.
I kind of, back then, and even to an extent now, I still, I used to be very dependent on the opinions of other people, what other people thought. And that was kind of the first time I was like, wait a second, but if it makes me happy, why am I listening to them?
Exactly right. I mean, that's the question everybody probably needs to ask them. Why are you worrying? And I think, Gary Vee talks about this a lot.
Yeah.
Why are you worrying about somebody who's not even fulfilling their own dreams, telling you about yours and what you should or shouldn't do? And sometimes, you find something that you like that you never thought you would really like. And you didn't think maybe you were the person until you tried it. And this is definitely what I want to do. You know what I mean? So then what did you do to block all that out? That's hard.
Honestly, I had to end a couple of friendships, and not just from that situation alone, but from other external factors. I was kind of realizing for the first time, maybe having an abundance of friends isn't always necessarily the best thing. It's the quality of the friends that are in your life. That's what's important. And I did have to cut a couple of friends out of my life. But also, I just kind of, I don't know, I had a gut feeling, call it, but I just kind of knew this was what got my fire going.
Right.
It was the first time I had really felt passionate about something, and I knew I couldn't ignore that.
Right. No, you can't ignore it. I mean, you have to listen to your gut instinct, and it was probably scary too, because you went for one thing, then you were trying another, and it just didn't feel right, so you probably got frustrated.
Yes.
This is what I'm supposed to do, you know what I mean?
Continuously frustrated.
Yeah.
And there were even a lot of times after I switched my major to poli-sci where I really just never thought I was going to get a job in politics, and I really got down on myself. And I have to say, I'm really thankful to my former boss, Michelle McGovern, because it really was a lot of hard work, but also the right person taking a chance on me that led me to getting my job in Senator Nelson's
So
office.
we thank Michelle because she's here today because she took a chance. And Michelle McGovern is, a lot of things to a lot of people. It means a lot to,
Yeah.
to people here in West Palm Beach. So what exactly did you do working for Senator Nelson and his
So I was Michelle's assistant and also Sean Hall's assistant, who was the regional director for Palm Beach up through Indian River County out through Hendry County and Okeechobee County.
Wow.
So Michelle and Sean covered about 7 counties. Michelle actually covered the whole state. She was
Wow.
the state director. But really, I was just in the office, like keeping the office running, doing scheduling for them, writing out correspondence, helping staff Senator Nelson for events.
Wow.
I really was able to learn a lot through that position.
Absolutely. And for people who don't know, I mean, Senator Nelson was a senator forever. I mean, for a really long, he definitely dedicated his life, his adult life, I think,
Yes.
to public service. So what was the one thing that you learned from there?
Oh man,
From
I learned-
them, from him, from actually now having a job in politics. I mean, that's very different from studying to having it.
So I learned a lot of things from Michelle, a lot of things from Sean,
Right.
a lot of things from my other coworkers and other staff members, and from Senator Nelson himself. So from Michelle, I learned to always use BCC on an email when you are including elected officials.
They don't tell you that. Here you go. You're getting some
That was
serious tidbits.
one of the most important lessons I learned.
Wow.
But I also just learned to be energetic and tenacious and how to always communicate effectively with people when you need something done without coming across as, being rude or anything.
Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah, and both my bosses were great at communicating with me, and I learned so much from them on that front. But from Senator Nelson, I got the encouragement that if Senator Nelson could go 30-something years in public service without profusely cussing all the time, maybe I could do the same.
That's a small feat. Like, that's a major feat. Can we just say that? Because it's, I mean, especially, and how long were you there?
I was there for a year and 7 months.
And it just seems like ages ago, right? Like, because, I mean, things are very different now, don't you
Yeah.
think? Like, where we're at in just the world and politics. And so the fact that you learned how to be an effective communicator without belittling somebody, without having to put them down, maybe,
Yeah.
is probably, I would think, your strongest attribute moving forward.
Yes.
Because it's really hard being in politics, and you got into it because it was so passionate. It's like you found, like, yes, this is what I'm supposed to do. I found it. Yay, and I'm not 50, which
Yeah.
is fine too. But I mean, it's very rare when you get somebody in their 20s that, like, no, this is what I'm meant to do. You know what I mean? So,
And from Senator Nelson, too, I definitely learned from him that a public office is a public trust. And
Wow.
he repeats that line quite a bit.
Yeah.
But, at the end of the day, I would see people kind of chide him like, we should brag more about your accomplishments and what you have passed and bills you have worked on. And he just goes, nope, that is not what working for the people of Florida is about.
wow.
And another thing, too, I learned as well is, I don't know, just observing Senator Nelson and his wife's marriage, I really learned kind of what people should look for and a good, solid partner.
They're adorable. I
Yes.
mean, they really are adorable. And so I just want to say thank you for your service and for Senator
Thank you.
Nelson and everybody there. I mean, that's a long time to
Yeah.
be in public service and to not change. I think a lot of people, it probably maybe changed them for the worse, but he has stayed true. So thank you to everybody. I just want to say that.
Yes.
So that's a lot that you accomplished. In your honestly, in your 20s. Do you feel like does it feel like that?
Well, okay, I always joke about, I don't know if you're a fan of the musical Hamilton, but
yes, I haven't seen it, but yes.
yeah, there's this line in the show where he goes, "There's a million things I haven't done, just you wait, just you wait." And there's also another line in the show where he kind of talks about how he's never satisfied, and I feel like that's kind of always me. And for a while, I always felt like I was kind of running behind other people, and I wasn't quite up to par as some of my other friends were. But then I kind of realized everyone has their own timeline, and
Yes.
you can't rush your timeline. That's not the point. You just need to go with it and embrace the big question marks in your life and know that something's going to work out in time for you in order for you to have success.
You were wise beyond your years. Can I just say that?
I don't get that a lot. I'm kidding.
Well, you're getting now. It's on film for you, so you can show it to everybody. And it's just listening to you. I think people in their 20s, 30s, and late teens get such bad flack. You know, they get such bad press for either not caring or not getting involved. And then I listen to you, and honestly, so much of your peer group around your age group are doing amazing, amazing things. Does it aggravate you a little bit? Like, because you're also getting left with a lot of the issues too, long term.
Sure thing, but also if there's going to be a generation that's going to change it, it's going to be my generation.
Yes, I do agree. I do agree. Finding different ways to do things too, because I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, you know, the way we've been doing things isn't really working. You know, and just maybe being a little bit more innovative and communicating a little bit better, I feel is maybe your guys' strong suit. Where, you know, and sticking up for yourselves and sticking up for what you believe is right. I mean, after the Parkland shooting, I mean, we're an hour away from Parkland. It's not that far. I mean, those kids, I mean, immediately stood up for what was right. And now March for Our Lives is a serious thing. You know what I mean? And those are young teens who were affected and said, no, we're going to do something about it. We're not going to go home and sit, right? So what do you think, I mean, again, does it aggravate you? I mean, when you see all your peers and everybody doing these amazing things and marching and, you know, coming together and trying to put a positive spin on things, you know, does it bother you? Do you think it's bad press and fake news? I had to say that.
No, I don't think it bothers me, and I don't think it bothers my peers too, because we're too busy working to be paying attention to people complaining.
Wow, that's a burn. I really like that. I'm going to have that as a snapshot. So what do you think, you know, looking back, what do you think is your biggest takeaway from your time so far up until now? Is it just that you just have to be patient and walk through those doors when you're ready?
Yes, and also, I mean, even right now, you know, I'm in the process of starting over looking for a job, and
this I do want to take a moment. This is the consequences of elections.
Yes.
You know, and you had a job and now you don't, you know?
Yeah, and you know what, that's part of politics.
Right.
You know, you just have to accept it. But even while I'm looking for a job, it's kind of interesting starting back at square one, and I'm someone that I love to work, and I love being at work.
Yes, you do. She is always working. She's on a board of this and doing this and this event, and she's always got a smile on her face, I'll tell you that.
So, you know, I'm someone that defines myself by my career, and that's not always the best thing. So just learning to embrace the question marks in my life and the unknown is something I'm really trying to work on right now.
Well, I think you're doing an amazing job. I just want to say.
Thank you.
So let's go off of that. Okay, so we just had an election in Florida and everywhere, but in Florida it was a little difficult. But the rest of the country, I mean, it really was a wave of like over 100 women got elected. You know, the Democrats flipped a lot of seats. And a lot of those women were first time in politics, you know, was now. So it was like really, really exciting. So, and I think that's why the Women on the Run program is so important, because there's a lot of us. I mean, nobody in there had really ever, there's a few of us, I think, that had run. Tinu, who will be on, had run before. But I think a lot of women were like, no, I think I need to get involved. How do I do that?
Yeah.
So now that you've gone through all this, and a woman comes up to you and says, you know, look, I want to get involved. I don't know how. I don't know if I should run. What was your first piece of advice to them on where to kind of start?
Well, just take a moment and sit down, and it doesn't necessarily need to be you figuring out what office you're going to even run for. Just think about what issues you're passionate about and what are pertinent to you in your life, and what do you maybe have a story over. That's actually how Lucy McBath, who just flipped Georgia's 6th congressional district, I believe.
Really big,
Yeah, with from Karen Handel. I think it's
Yeah.
So I mean, that's how she came about running for office. Is that I'm sure, like, she didn't think about running, but her son was killed in a shooting, and that became her driving force to affecting policy change.
Right, and so and there's a lot of those stories of women who just are tired of seeing everything happen in their community, you know, on the TV, and they're saying, no, if it's not going to be you, it's going to be me. And you know, we're, I think, better communicators personally. I mean, you know, so I think, you know, they just all got sworn in. I think, are you excited to see them? And I mean, everybody,
course,
and I mean, you have some really, you know, popular people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez,
yes.
you know, who are making waves in every way possible. And whether or not you agree with her politics or not, I mean, that's somebody who probably a decade ago or maybe 2 decades ago would have never, ever gotten into politics or thought she had a opportunity.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I think about my mom's generation, maybe your parents' generation, that's not something they thought of. And I think there's more opportunity for women to be like, no, it's going to start with me, don't you think? So the other thing that I think is so interesting with you is that, you know, you've worked for a Democratic senator and you've done all these things, but your peer group is very diverse. You don't all believe the same stuff and you don't all agree.
Yeah.
And I think that's so amazing because with the current political state and the discourse, and people are afraid to voice, or they're not afraid and they're just rude about it, quite frankly. How do you keep those friendships? Because, I mean, it honestly, I mean, if they voted not in your favor in November, it affected you.
It did. And I mean, in that particular race, I am having a hard time kind of reconciling my thoughts about losing my job versus, you know, my friends if unknowingly actively taking a role in that. But, you know, I did have a couple of friends approach me after the election. They go, wait, you lose your job because of this? And I go, yes. And then they go, why didn't you say something? And I go, well, I didn't want to say anything because that would have influenced your vote. And you should have voted genuinely who you felt was the best candidate, even if I don't agree with it, you know?
Wow, Alex, that's got to be hard.
It has been
I mean, it is. It's
rough.
just a reality of how hard it's probably.
It is. And definitely going forward, I would like to work for members who my friends don't directly have to vote for and directly influence my job.
Am I hearing national in my head here from you? You're going, she's going to do amazing things. I do know that. I do know that. I'm so proud of you and everything that you're doing.
But really, though, I mean, it's a little bit different for me because I did grow up in a very conservative household. My mom calls me the blue sheep of the family, actually.
Wow! That's not a bad thing.
No.
I mean, you know.
And I always say that it's a good lesson in diplomacy at the dinner table every single night, even if I don't necessarily agree with my other family members.
Yeah.
You know, you just have to be willing to put yourself in another person's shoes, always be willing to listen, and accept the fact that you're not going to agree on everything, and you're most likely not going to change another person's mind. They have to experience it for themselves in order for them to change their opinion on something.
That's so true. That's so true.
With that being said, as a Democrat, you cannot strategize and win against Republicans unless you come to understand Republicans and why they vote the way that they vote, which is why I think it's important to spend time conversing with people that don't agree with you, and stretching your mind, kind of stretching your perception of things. And really, those are the conversations you tend to grow the most from, even if you don't necessarily agree.
Right, because you're learning, and and this is the whole reason why the hub exists, because you're understanding where that person came from and why they made the choices that they made and kind of carried them where they're at in life.
Yeah, exactly.
And the more you understand somebody, you can have a common ground in something.
Exactly.
You know, you may not agree on everything, but you can find one or two things. You know, everybody, if you have a kid, you worry about that kid's education.
Yeah.
You know, you worry about healthcare. There's certain things that you may not agree on how to go about it, but you agree that they may be issues.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
And I mean, another thing too is always start at the local level with local issues, because
they affect us more.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or a Republican when it comes to zoning issues.
Yeah,
you know?
If it's gonna butt up against your house, you know, a new place, you know, that's gonna affect your property value.
Yeah,
I mean, you're gonna worry.
So I always like to start off with telling people, if you want to talk to someone you don't agree with and you don't know how, just always start with the local issues. And even then, ways I'm able to find common ground with my parents. The algae bloom issue up in Stewart, and then also education, public education. My parents are very fiscally conservative, but my mom will always vote for a 1% tax, like a 1% tax raise or anything, as long as it directly funds public schools.
Well, that's smart. You know, that they're obviously thinking of where that money's going.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, people say they're an R or a D, but really, I think most people exist somewhere in the middle, or somewhere in the middle towards the left or right. But yeah, I mean, really, it just is a matter of sitting down and talking to someone to figure out what they're about and what they believe in. And
You'll make it through. You'll make it through. You'll get through it. I promise. If you have good intentions, you'll get through it.
Exactly.
What do you think right now is our biggest issue? We're in a shutdown still when this is being taped. But what do you think? Is it? I think people get very stressed out. It's like it's voter suppression, it's schools, it's healthcare, it's this, it's that.
For someone my age, definitely education is very prevalent right now, especially as we kind of see just kind of the, dismemberment of our public school system and more of a focus on charter schools. And I can't necessarily, I support public school. I can't necessarily say charter schools are better or public schools better because I don't have kids that I'm enrolling in either programs. But, down the line, if I want a family, that is something that's going to be very prevalent to me. And even right now, public education, but also being able to afford said education and paying off my student loans.
and I know people in their 40s that are still paying off their student loans. They went to graduate school and all this. And so that, I agree with you. I think that's huge because we expect people to do well and go to school and all this.
Yes.
We don't really make it as accessible and affordable to do that, I think.
Yes. And then another issue, especially prevalent, I think, in South Florida and in Palm Beach County, is going to be affordable housing for my generation.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. I mean,
and that's a common ground, I think, that anybody can really look at the issue and say, yeah, these are issues. How do we fix them, no matter what side of the aisle you're on?
Well, another thing is that, especially in Palm Beach County, I feel like we just need to be better about ushering in industry and businesses that are going to want to make young people move down here more.
Right.
Because, we have the weather, we have
so many amazing things.
We have so
here.
many things going, but even my friends up north, they just go, well, there's not really a draw for me to move to South Florida because a lot of headquarters for corporations aren't there, or there aren't a lot of companies there that are hiring on young people. And I think we definitely need a lot more innovation in the area.
Right, absolutely. So where do you see yourself in 5-10 years? That's such a hard thing to answer, I know, but you've got such a bright future, so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So 5 to 10 years, I'm finishing up my bachelor's degree at Florida International University, doing international relations and political science with a focus in Latin American studies. And my two focus areas are Cuba and Venezuela. So I would love to be doing legislative work down the line in foreign policy, especially pertaining to Latin American countries. But yeah, I could also see myself going into government relations for the right corporation, or just nonprofit. I definitely can see myself going into a nonprofit down the line, actually. But honestly, I'm just open to whatever in the political realm is there for me.
Would you ever run? As we end this, I'm going to come
No, I wouldn't run, but that shouldn't discourage other women from considering it. I choose not to run because I'm an introvert at heart. I like having my privacy. I can't be on all the time, and just seeing people run for office, I know it's not the given path for me, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's not the given path for other women.
Right, but it's something they should definitely understand, that's part of it, that they're going to lose some of that for sure, right? Thank you so much. First of all, I'm so proud of you and everything that you're doing and accomplishing. This girl has an amazing future ahead of her, so watch out.
Thank you.
So, Alex, thank you so much. I'm really excited. Alex is actually going to come back, and as current events are kind of coming up, she's going to come back and we're going to talk about it, and we'll bring other people on, so definitely stay tuned. And thank you again for coming on the Hub.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited. So, all right, guys, see you next time. Bye.
Thank you.